I was down on the ground again. This thing got a hold of me and just, this is trapped nerve of some kind in there. It just wouldn't allow me to even stand. I just kept going over and over in my mind with this idea that call Marcy, find her. And she just reminded me that you are not this pain. And I asked if I'm to have this pain, and there's some reason that I'm supposed to be experiencing it, then I'm willing to do that. But within about 30 minutes' time, it just left. Rumi, Mevlana, which means our master, Jalaluddin Rumi, a 13th century poet, brilliant spiritual master, said, what was said to the rose that made it open was said to me here in my heart when I met you. He was speaking about God. And then Anas Nin said, and the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to open. Isn't that beautiful? Two little rose things I thought I'd throw at you before we start. I'm sitting. You probably noticed. Two reasons. One is I have a neck injury that I've been dealing with for the last 7 or 8 months, with hospitals and injections and consultations with surgeons and on and on and on. And so standing and walking around is... I was in Melbourne, Australia, in August of this year, and something got a hold of my neck and said, you have to leave the stage. And I've never had that happen. And then a month or so later, I had to actually cancel, for the first time in almost 40 years of public speaking, a speech in Washington, D.C. So I'm in the process of healing. And it's been wonderful because I had a second experience with John of God in Brazil just about a month and a half ago, in September. And after that, I met a man named Peter Gascu, who was sent to me by a divine angel, I guess, because he has 25 clinics around the country, around the world, actually. And he has written a book called Pain Free, and how to rid yourself of chronic pain and so on. And it turns out, since we're all just so connected, all of this, it's just amazing for me. The second reason, by the way, that I'm sitting is because I like the idea of it being a conversation rather than a performance and so on. So I'll be just in conversation from now on. Even when this neck was, I still intend to run a marathon when I turn 75, which is 2 years from now. Yeah. I know it's not good when they applaud your age. I know there's something about that that's not good. I always say I'm 73 years old and I have sex almost every day. Almost on Monday, almost on Tuesday, almost. So. But at any rate, so I met this gentleman through the work of someone who was contacting my secretary and just would not let up, and had heard that what had happened to me in Australia and what had happened in Washington, and just prior to the taping of a public television special, which will be airing beginning in March of next year, based on a book I'll be speaking about tonight that I have written since I saw you last, in the last year and a half, called I Can See Clearly Now. And this is just one of those kind of events that I can see clearly now again, because just 90 minutes prior to the taping of the public television special, and a week after I'd had the John of God experience, I got to the auditorium where we were doing the filming, and there were all the trucks, 4 or 5 big trucks, and several 45 or 50 people, and the audience was there, and I was down on the ground again. This thing got a hold of me, and just this is trapped nerve of some kind in there. It just wouldn't allow me to even stand. And it was 90 minutes before the recording of the public television special. I speak about it now because it's relevant to what I want to speak about the entire time that I have with you tonight. That miracles are there for us if we open our hearts to them and allow it. Even my being here tonight is really an absolute miracle, because in addition to that neck thing, there's some kind of crazy thing going around the country that's, you can probably hear it in my voice a little bit, but I'm here, and yep. So while I was writhing on the ground in this pain and telling the people that this, it looks like we're going to have to just cancel this recording, and that's about $1 million decision. My wife, with whom I've been separated for the past 13 years, was there, and 3 of my children were on the public television special with me, and I just called for her. Because we're very, very close. We speak every day. We love each other very much. We have 7 children together. We just separated 13 years ago for reasons that are ours alone to know. And but I just kept going over and over in my mind with this idea that call Marcy, find her. And everybody in there said, "What? Marcy? Why would you want Marcy here? She lives with somebody else, and she's not here, and blah blah blah." And I said, "Well," inside my head, I was thinking, I was with this woman through 4 childbirths, and I watched her do it, and I watched her do it without any drugs of any kind, and without ever uttering a sound, and doing it in the most peaceful way, because she's a doula. She assists people in midwives and childbirths and so on. And I knew if there was anybody that would be able to get me out of this pain, it would be her. And she came into the room, and my daughter Sky, who is here tonight, who you'll be hearing from a little later, and my youngest daughter, Sage, were there. And they came back, and Marcy walked into the room and saw me in there, and she just looked at me and dismissed everybody from around and started talking to me about, "You are not the same stuff that I've been talking about for years." It's amazing how it comes back to you, it's like. And she just reminded me that you are not this pain. And that's how I did it when I had these children. I just stepped outside of that and became the observer. And became the witness. You are the witness. You've written books about it. You've talked about it. Now practice it. Here's an opportunity for you. And I said, "Well, that's easy for you. All you did was give birth to a few kids." I said, I got a sore neck here. Not really. And within 20 minutes, my daughters and my wife just put their arms around me, and they held me, and I said a prayer, and I asked if I'm to have this pain, and there's some reason that I'm supposed to be experiencing it, then I'm willing to do that. But could I be relieved of it for the next couple of hours so that we could do this show, and I'll take it right back on again if necessary, whatever. Seriously, this is exactly how I felt, because I don't think there's any accidents in the universe. I think that everything that comes our way has something to teach us. And this was one of the things and I would say this to myself every day, and I would practice being the witness, but when this thing got a hold of me, it's that kind of excruciating pain. Although, men have a different idea of pain than women. I know that if men had to give birth to children, there would be no such word as sibling. I'm aware of that, okay? But within about 30 minutes' time, just left. And I was able to go out and do the show. And the next day, I met this gentleman who was continuously calling me, and someone that had worked with him, and they said, this man can help you, this person can help you. And the first time that I had my experience with John of God was when I was diagnosed with leukemia 3 years ago, chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And I had an amazing healing. I've written about it in a book called Wishes Fulfilled, and many of you know about it. And the week after the surgery, they have what they call the removal of the sutures. And of course there are no sutures, but that's just what they call it, the suture removal, 1 week later. And 4 years ago when this took place, I had the most amazing experience of having the fear removed from my life. When you get a diagnosis, when someone tells you you've got something and it's called leukemia, there's this sort of reaction that is fear-based, even though it's not a fear of dying. It's just that word cancer has just got so much, it's so loaded. And if anybody knows about it, there's a woman here in the audience tonight who's going to be speaking tomorrow, who has written a book that I actually have to say that I was responsible for making this happen. I read about her experience on the internet and located her. She was in Hong Kong, and she was an end-stage cancer, down to about 82 pounds. It had 5 years of just this lymphoma throughout her entire body. And I contacted her, wrote the foreword to it. She originally sent it to me, and I read what she sent, and I sent it back to her and said, I want you to rewrite the whole book, but I want you to write it from the perspective of where you were when you had this near-death experience and when you came back. And 5 days after she opened her eyes, which no one who's ever been at that end stage of cancer has ever come back and lived. 5 days after she opened her eyes, something like 50% of her cancer was gone, and a few weeks later she was out of the hospital, and tomorrow she's going to be speaking to you. It's an amazing, amazing story. She's right there, I believe. Anita Moorjani. Stand up, Anita. Yeah. Superstar. Superstar. Look at you. I'm so proud. I couldn't be prouder. I love you too so much. God, I wish I could get up here. Come on up here and give me a hug. God damn it. She is just an angel. And look at her. Look how beautiful. And speaking all over the place. There she is. Say 2 words to these people.
Wow. I'm overwhelmed. Every day I still have to pinch myself. When I had cancer, I was dying of cancer, and every morning I'd wake up wishing it was a dream. Now every morning I wake up and I'm so relieved that it's not a dream. And Wayne Dyer is responsible for changing my life. Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Is there anybody? You probably saw her on my PBS special. And anybody in the room who has cancer or has someone in their family with cancer? Someone, that lady right there. Would you stand up? The one who just raised her hand. Yeah, you. Yeah. Come on over here. I want to give you this as a gift. What I told Anita was, there you are. Enjoy it. You can have a kiss. There it is. What I told Anita was, when you write this book, I said the audience is limited. It's for anybody who's going to die or knows someone who has. And whenever you go to a funeral, you never know quite what to say to the survivors. What I say is just give them a copy of Dying to Be Me, because from a very personal experience, my own mother passed away last July, And I miss her very much. I mean, Maya Angelou, the wonderful, she's a friend of mine, someone I've been on the radio with a few times, and she said when she turned 70, she learned two things. One was that no matter what your relationship is to your mother, when she dies, you'll miss her more than you think you will. And that's so true. Yeah, I miss her a lot. The other thing she said is that I learned at 70 that my breasts are in a race to see which can reach my waist first. That's what she said. So these entities, after the experience with John of God and the leukemia and so on, and when I came, it changed me so in such a powerful way, because the fear was taken out of my heart, and it was replaced with the only other thing there is, which is written all over my shirt here, and it's what I wear wherever I speak now. Because when everybody asks me what is the answer, I just say love, period. So, and I did the PBS special with this on as well, in blue. So the Course in Miracles says there's only love or fear, and everything that is fear cannot be love, and everything that is love cannot be fear. So it seemed to me what happened is I was changed so drastically, so dramatically after that experience. And I haven't got time tonight to go through it because I've talked about it in many other places, and it's in Wishes Fulfilled if you'd like to read about it. But John of God has been just a very powerful experience for me. I did a show with Oprah Winfrey at Super Soul Sunday year and a half, 2 years ago. And after she kept trying to get me to say what happened and what are you talking about and this isn't possible and so on, 3 weeks later she took her own plane down there and had an experience with John of God. And they did a show about it herself on her OWN network. So this time with this thing with my neck, I had someone just say, we'd like to do another remote healing. And they sent me the herbs and they gave me the water and all of the things that are... And some of you are probably wondering, how crazy is this man? And that's the nice thing about being 73, that you just don't give a shit anymore whether people think you're crazy. It's perfectly fine. All I know is what happened to me, and I'm just reporting it, and I have the mic. So, and that day, 1 week after I had that surgery 3 years ago, everything in my life changed. Fear was removed, and if you read Anita's book is all about removing fear. And she believes that cancer itself is really caused by fear. I think all disease is, honestly. I think if we could get to a place where all we have is the love I'll be speaking about here tonight, a love called divine love, that if we can begin to practice it and live it from our hearts, that we could eliminate disease and war and hatred, you know, and so much of the stuff that's so dysfunctional in our country today, particularly politically, you know. I mean, if you really believe that government is bad, you're going to have bad government. You know, if you really believe that a health care act that is designed to provide health care for everybody is a train wreck, then it's going to be a train wreck if enough people believe that. If we believe that we, as one of the great countries in the world, have the perspective and the possibility and the wherewithal to provide health care to every single person born in our country from the time they're born until the time they die, and if you really believe that and function that way, we'll create it. Because you've probably heard me say, yeah. And the dollar signs and all of that won't matter. Because when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I mean, that's what I'm best known for. It's on my stationery. And it's absolutely, it isn't even just a clever play on words. It's a quantum truth. That when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you become the observer to a subatomic particle, the nature of how you observe it determines what it is that you are observing and how it behaves. So it's true at the subatomic level, and it's true at all levels. If we all change the way we look at possibilities. I just posted something on my sort of celebrity Facebook page thing that's got several million people on it, and it was a TED talk. So go on my Facebook page and find it. It was posted a couple of days ago. Someone sent it to me off of YouTube, and it was a gentleman in Israel just putting on images. And his belief is, and mine is as well, that this internet and the fact that it's everywhere in the world, that if we decided we weren't going to have war again and we were going to start sending love, and he started sending love to the people in Iran, and then the people in Iran started sending images back to the people in Israel, and then people in Costa Rica picked it up and sent things to Iran, and it went from a few thousand to a few 100,000 to a few million, all images that are being posted and put on there about, we don't want to die for your war, it's all about love period, and so on. And before you know it, we can transform the whole world through this social media. That all we have to do is get it into our hearts. Because the morning that I came out after the John of God experience, my kids looked at me as if I'd been having drugs all night, and they said, "You just look different, Dad. Your eyes look different. You have no pupils. It looked like someone had reached in and scratched my eye. It was all red inside, like a surgery had taken place in there." And I just reached out to my kids and said, "You've just never looked more beautiful to me." And I put my arms around them and I hugged them and told them how lucky I was and how grateful I was to have them in my life. And I looked at the ocean that I swim in every day, and it just looked like a bubbling pool of love. And the trees looked different, and the beach looked different. The grass was a bright, more vibrant green. Everything just looked so beautiful and so loving. And 2 weeks later, I celebrated my 71st birthday, so it was like 2.5 years ago. And I woke up that morning. I was in San Francisco at the St. Francis Hotel doing a film about forgiveness, about my father, my greatest teacher. And I reached into my pocket, and I had a couple of $1,000, and I went downstairs and changed it into $50 bills and went out to Union Square and spent the entire day talking to homeless people in Union Square and putting money in their pocket and just sending love. And it was like, when I was experiencing it, I was like sobbing. It was so beautiful. It's like, and that's a kind of love that I think that we can all get to. Now, this second experience with John of God, just a month and a half ago, I had the surgery. It was very similar. I had to stay in bed for 3 or 4 days, and a week later, instead of that experience, what happened is, through a whole series of, quote, coincidences, I called this man, Peter Goskew, and he answered the cell phone. I knew his name. I'd heard of him. And he said, "Where are you? Are you in Maui? Are you in Florida? Where are you?" I said, "Well, I'm in Del Mar. I'm at the Four Seasons Hotel in Carlsbad." And he said, "That's 10 miles from where I am right now." He said, "What room are you in?" And he was in my hotel room an hour later. And he looked at me when he walked in. Now, this is his business. And he was a former Marine pilot. He's 68 years old. His wife's name is Troy, T-R-O-I, and she's 50 years old. And she's had breast cancer, lung cancer, and brain cancer. I put her in contact with Anita. Anita responded to her. 7 years ago, she watched a public television special that I did and decided to change her whole attitude towards this cancer that she had, and was able to go into remission, and was crediting me for bringing her out of this fearful place that she was living in. It was just a show that I had done, that's all. She happened to turn it on late at night. Pete was sobbing when he walked in, this former Marine, a big burly guy. And he walked in and he looked at me and he said, "It is an honor to be here in the room to serve you." And he said, "You do not have a neck problem." He said, "You have a hip problem. Your right hip is so off that when your hip is off," he said, then you lean forward after 20 years of doing this and so on. Then your head leans forward and then your nerve gets exposed. And he said, when we get your hip realigned, and he said the whole thing starts. And he just saw all of this just instantly. And when I went back to Maui, there was a truckload of equipment that he sent for me. He's been putting me through an exercise regime. And my neck is finally, after almost a year of this chronic, severe kind of pain that my kids actually called an ambulance that had me sent to the hospital because it was so devastating, is beginning to disappear. So I think these entities worked in a different way. What they did is they sent me someone who would not only help me, who I had helped, but would help me to tell other people about the possibility that you don't just have to consider things like surgery, and if you get yourself in shape and realign this body of yours and do it, the exercises, and work through it. So I'm a big proponent and very, very grateful for that opportunity. And to my wife, who, without her, I would never have been able to do that PBS show. Amazing, isn't it, how it all fits together? And here I am now sitting and having a conversation with thousands of people here, and who knows who's out there. Anyway, that's my story. That's it. I don't have any more to say. Miracles can happen, and we're all connected. And who knows? You know, you go out there and you do something that, and you put it out on a public television station. And you know, I've been doing these public television specials since 1998. We've done 10 of them. This is the 10th one, the one that begins to air in March. And I'm very proud to say that we've just passed the $250 million mark of how much money I've raised on those shows for public television in America. Isn't that amazing? $250 million. So, June the 26th of last year, I made an announcement to my kids and to my family that I wasn't going to write any more books. I've written 40 books. Many of them have been very, very successful. All of them have been very successful. Children's books, books that were textbooks before I was writing books for the public back in the 1970s. And I said, you know, I've just done enough of that. And the idea of having to face 500 empty pages and fill them from in here, because unlike many authors, people that call themselves authors, who have other people work for them and write for them and so on, I write everything I have ever published has been written by me by hand. So it's a great labor. It's a labor of love, but it's also a labor of a lot of pressure, you know, to produce and so on. And that was on June the 26th, and I just felt some relief from that. And you know, now I don't have to write another book. Isn't that great? I'm free. I can do some other things. I can travel, but I've traveled the world anyway. That was June 26th, 2012. June 27th, honestly, this is a true story. I woke up and I was reading a book, and the book was called To Know We Are Loved. It's part of a trilogy written by a man named Rashad Field. And I came across a passage in his book while I'm reading in the morning. because I'm always reading. And this is what it said. It said, if we stop for a moment, it is possible to perceive a pattern in our lives. The motivators that have influenced us become more obvious. We are able to see life unfolding from both ends at once, coming into the present moment. But until we get to a certain point of realization, this is not possible, because everything is still seen as a series of apparent causes and effects. Now, that may not mean a lot to you, but that jumped out at me, and it became a guiding principle for me. So I want to say it to you again. If you stop for a moment, it's possible to perceive a pattern in our lives. The motivators that have influenced us become more obvious. We're able to see life unfolding, and this is really underlined here, from both ends at once, coming into the present. But until we have got to a certain point of realization, this is not possible, because everything is still seen as a series of causes and effects. So that, and then he began to talk more in there about time. And that time is, he talked about two kinds of time. There's one time that is called cause and effect time. So that you look at your life, and most of the things that you think caused you to be where you are and be in the places that you are a result of all of the things that have happened to you in the past up until this moment. But he is talking about both ends. That is, not only are things that are occurred in the past affecting you today, but so are things from the future, what we call the future, that you're pulling from the future. So I like to put it this way. It's like, think of your wisdom teeth. You know, the moment that you are conceived, you know, when that tiny little drop of human protoplasm, and in that tiny little drop, and at the moment of your birth, 9 months later, your wisdom teeth are there. Now, they're not going to be the result of something that's going to happen back here. They're already here. They just haven't manifested yet, so you will pull your wisdom teeth out of the future. Literally, 20 years from now, those things will show up, and you'll be pulling things out of the future. So he said this is like cause and effect time, and things are not only taking place in your life that happened in the past, but you're pulling things out of the future. And then he talked about another kind of time that he called eternal time. And eternal time isn't represented by a horizontal line of cause and effect, but by a vertical line that goes from you to God, or to your source of being. And this eternal time is something that is, I have a quote. I wrote a few things out to say tonight. He said, Thomas Traherne, a famous 17th century, not so famous 17th century poet, he wasn't even discovered until the 19th century. He said, this moment, the moment that you're in right now, exists in infinite space, but there is a space also wherein all moments are infinitely exhibited, and the everlasting duration of infinite space is another region and a room of joys. A room of joys. So that there's something called eternal time. And eternal time is when everything in your life is taken care of for you. And I started writing about this. I started looking at my own life as a tapestry, and that there have been forces at work in my life that were preparing me for this moment, right here, right now, talking to you. And while you're going through them, you're not aware of them. It's only when you get to a place where you can step back and look at these, all of these events, that you begin to realize that I've been in some kind of training for everything that I've done, and I think that I'm the one who's making these choices all along. Now, I was trained originally to be a Jungian analyst, like Carl Jung, the great teacher, the great Austrian psychiatrist and contemporary with Freud. And Carl Jung once said this. He said, at the same moment that you are a protagonist in your own life and you're making choices, you're also the spear carrier or the extra in a much larger drama. He said, all of you are really doomed to make choices. Now that's really a paradox, isn't it? I mean, if you're doomed, that means everything is just taken care of. And he said, you're making choices, but within this context of choice making, there's also this eternal time thing that is always working. And when this line, this vertical line, eternal time, which is all there is now, and if you read Anita's book, she speaks about this awareness that when you leave your body and you're in what she calls the other realm, that everything is happening at once. There is no past, there is no future. It's just all now. Very much like in your dream state. You need to be 20, you're 20. You need to have your mother alive, your mother's alive. You need to be, back in grade school, you're in grade school. Whatever you put your attention on, you are. And try to imagine when you leave your body that you're going to be in a space of oneness that is so profound and so loving and so now. Because everything that's ever happened to any one of you didn't happen in the past. It happened in the now, in the present. Because that's all there is. And everything that's ever going to happen to all of you isn't going to happen to you in the future. It's going to happen in the present, now. It's all there is. So this awareness that there's something taking place that is directing your entire life. I watched an interview one time. I was being interviewed by the New York Times, and the great Arthur Miller was in the room. And he was also being interviewed. He was 91 years old. This was, a decade or so ago. And, this great playwright. I mean, he'd written, Death of a Salesman, The Crucible, and, so many famous probably the most famous 20th century American playwright. And they're asking him the question, are you working on another play? And he's 91 years old, and they're asking him, is there something in the works? And he said, I'll never forget this, he said, I don't know, but I probably am. That day, June the 27th, 2012, I grabbed my pen, I went over to my writing space, and I started writing. And I started writing the significant events that have taken place in my life from the perspective of there is a tapestry, there is something that is taking place, and all these choices that I have been making all through my life are also made within a context of something else is moving the checkers around in your life. And when you have this line cross this line at that point, at the cross, where you have the awareness that yes, you're making choices, but also you're aligned with your purpose, with your sense of mission, with what you came here to be, that you just have to step outside. Look, if your wisdom teeth are there and you're going to pull them out of the future, and all of that is taken care of, like everything in your physical being is already taken care of. It's like in the Tao Te Ching, when I wrote the book on living the Tao, change your thoughts, change your life. Lao Tzu says, none of you're not doing anything. You're just being done. Do you ever have a sense of that? Well, you know that that's true for your body, don't you? I mean, I look at my body and, I just know that it's just in the hands of something other than me, this ego of mine. And, the hairs were growing up here and now they're growing in my ears. I mean, it's just the way this whole thing is. It's not too great a stretch for me to think that if everything that we needed for our physical journey was taken care of, and we're pulling things out of the future from the moment that we were conceived, there was a future pull that is pulling us towards wherever we're supposed to be, and there's not much we can do about it. We just sort of allow it to do whatever it's going to do. We adjust it, and we have implants here, and we fix this there, and we raise that, and we do that. But basically, it's going to do whatever it's going to do, and then you're going to leave it. But it's not too great a stretch for me to say that not only is that true for everything that's happening to our physicalness, but it's true for our entire spiritual world, for all of our purpose in being here, our personalities, all of that as well. That yes, we're making choices within a context of all the choices are already made, and you got to live with both of those things. Rumi said, when you are born, a ladder is placed before you to help you to escape from this world. And what I have done is I have written out this idea that there is a way of connecting to eternal time, and they call it in the recovery movement. Now, I just celebrated 25 years without any alcohol in my body. Okay, 25 years. And thank you. And that's there's a part of me that realizes that that's a choice, that I was making. But there's also a part of me that realizes that that was also a choice that was being imposed upon me, if you will. It was this whole idea that it's me making that choice all the time. I'm beginning to realize that there's something else moving these checkers around this big checkerboard called our life. And that when you connect to this source and really allow it to direct your life, it's what the Beatles called, you just let it be. You just let it be. And I think that this ladder that Rumi had, I used the PBS show, we used the ladder, and there's various rungs along this ladder. It doesn't mean that, you just have to just sit back and just allow whatever is going to take place and not be involved in it. These rungs of this ladder have certain kinds of things on them, and I want to speak about what I think they are. But when you get to this point where you realize that just like everything in your body was taken care of by forces that you had absolutely nothing to do with, that is, your ego had nothing to do with, so is everything else that you're here for. Everything. And sometimes you think, well, this just sounds like just a lot of just gibberish and so on, but it's to me it's just been so powerful because I wrote and started writing these ideas out and started looking at my life step by step. Like when I was 10 years old, I was placed in an orphanage when I was just 2. And for the first 8 years of my life, I lived in a series of foster homes and orphanages and so on. And then when I was 10, my mother got her family back together again. My father had abandoned us. And she got us together, and I met my oldest brother for the first time. He was 4 years older than I am. My other brother, David, was with me throughout all of this. So we're 10 years old. And I'm enrolled in a school on the east side of Detroit called Arthur Elementary School. And I'm in the 4th grade. Now, I've been in a different school every year from the time I was in school. So this is about the 6th school or 7th school that I've been in. And we're always being moved about, and there's no money, and it's a lot of poverty, a lot of hunger, some abuse, stuff going on, especially with my next oldest brother, who was very sickly. He had anemia and was actually 16 months older than me, but smaller, and I had to sort of keep him from being bullied, and this was my life. And I was 10 years old, and finally with my family, my mother remarried my father in a different body, another alcoholic, abusive man, because life gives exams. It's like algebra. If you don't pass it, you got to take it over, and she's taking it over. She did it again. So I'm in this class, and Mrs. Ingalls is the teacher. in this class. And every day she would read to us at 10 minutes to 3, I think it was, on the clock on the wall that said Seth Thomas. I remember that so well, looking up there. And now I'm in the fourth grade. Now remember, I'm speaking from the perspective of now a 73-year-old man looking back and realizing that this is a part of what had to happen for me. It's almost as if like I had a conversation with God, and God said, before I came into this world, what would you like to do in this incarnation? What would you like to do? And I responded, I would like to teach self-reliance. And he said, you want to spend a whole lifetime teaching self-reliance? I said, yeah, that's what I want to do. And so God said, then we better get your little ass into an orphanage. And when you're in there, you'll learn to rely on yourself because there's not going to be anybody else there to do that for you. Now, you laugh at that and you think about that, but from this perspective that I'm speaking about here of eternal time and chronological time, coordinate, I can look back on that experience and I can remember, this is one of the first stories I wrote, and I can see clearly now, because in each one of these chapters of this book, which will be out in March, I not only put down what these quantum moment peak experience times, things that happened to me throughout my life that brought me to here, but at the end of each one of those chapters, I write, I can see clearly now why I had to go through it. And what I'm suggesting, the reason I'm saying this to you and telling you this story is because you can do the same thing. You can begin to see your life not as just a series of accidents and, oh, poor me's, and this shouldn't have happened and all that, but as that everything that ever happened and transpired in your life is a part of the Dharma that you're here for. Even the tough stuff, even the stuff that you don't like, to admit to, even the struggles. In fact, the struggles very often are the most important things that I write about. Some of those real deep ones, especially when my wife decided that she wanted to separate 13 years ago. But anyway, so in this Mrs. Ingalls class in the 4th grade at Chester Arthur Elementary School, at 10 minutes to 3, she would read to us from a book. And if the class was good, she would read. And if the class wasn't good, meaning if people were noisy and all of those kind of things, and then she wouldn't read. And I wanted to hear this story so bad. I loved it because it was a story about a 10-year-old child who was an orphan, who had been reunited, and I was like, this was my story. And when I was 10 years old, my biggest concern was that I was going to have to go back, to going from home to home, and some of them weren't the greatest. Some of them were horrible. And that was like, I wondered, whatever it was that I had to do to keep myself from having to go back to that, I was willing to do. So what I did is I became the enforcer in the classroom. If anybody got out of line, I would walk over there and say, shh, knock it off. And it's interesting, when I was writing this, I discovered that I could remember everybody that was in the class in the 4th grade. And this was like my 7th schoolroom, Fred Green sat here, Erlene Rent sat there, Sue Fairchild sat over here, Dick Powell sat over here. I mean, I could go through all of these people, because it's all in there when you start doing this. And the book that she was reading was called The Secret Garden. And The Secret Garden is about an orphan girl named Mary who meets this little boy named Dickon, who teaches her about a secret garden that's located inside each and every one of us, and it opens inward, and we can go there and no one can take that away from us. I think I've spent the last 40 years or so writing books just about the secret garden, about the secret place that's within each and every one of us. I wrote this out this morning. If there is intelligence behind life, and all of the science tells us that there is the matrix of all matter, said Max Planck when he received the Nobel Prize for physics, that there is a divine intelligence behind everything. The matrix of all matter has an intelligence behind it that's invisible. If there is intelligence behind life, and there is every reason to believe there must be, then all of that intelligence is innate in each creation of that intelligence. Thus, universal mind, God, the Tao, whatever you want to call it, is complete and entire within each and every one of us. All you have to do is discover it for its power and perfection to be yours. So think about that. If there's intelligence behind life, and we all know that there is, all the quantum physicists teach us that there must be, then all of that intelligence that you came from, it's the spirit that gives life, said Jesus. The flesh counts for nothing. So all of the intelligence from which you originated is within you. So that God intelligence, this grand capacity that all of us have, is within each and every one of us. The problem is that we've all been conditioned to believe something else about ourselves. One of the most controversial things that's written about in Wishes Fulfilled is this idea where I say, over and over again, that we are connected to God, we are pieces of God. Yes, you are God. That you must be like what you came from, and you came from this divine place, and within you is the capacity to heal, to transform, to make anything possible that you put your attention on. That's something that, even as Jesus said, even the least among you can do all that I have done and even greater things. It's within each and every one of us. We all have this capacity, and that's our secret garden. It's like, but we don't use it, and I'm using it right now to overcome some congestion that I've had, to overcome this neck thing. Just recognizing that I have within me the power to be able to overcome those things. And here I am doing it. And have been doing this kind of thing and been teaching this my whole life. And I would walk up Peerless Street and up to my home at 20217 Moross Road on the east side of Detroit. And all the way home, I would think about Dickon and this secret garden that is in each and every one of us. Now, I'm talking about a tapestry that is in our life. I was in some kind of ascended master training of some kind from the time that I showed up here on this planet. Because the intelligence that I came from, because when you trust in yourself, you're trusting in the very wisdom that created you. And if you don't trust in that and start believing what other people have told you is your dharma or what you're to be, and you're trying to live somebody else's idea of it, one of the things I say over and over again as I wrote this, and by the way, I wrote 58 of these. I wrote 144,000 words in the next 5 months. From June, July, August, September, October, November, I wrote morning, noon, and night. And I couldn't stop. And I was writing by hand, and I think that's part of the thing that kicked off this neck thing, because and my kids all came and, Dad, we're going to go do this and we're going to do that. And I said, well, you guys all go do that. It's like a calling that is so profound and so powerful that not only did I write that book, and have we done a public television special on it, and I think that when you read it, you're going to be astonished at how powerful it is to look back at the tapestry of your life and realize that you've been in the same kind of training. T.S. Eliot, the great American poet, said, "We shall not cease from exploration. But at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time." He was talking about death. I'm not. I'm talking about just I think that we can return to the place from which we originated, stay within our bodies, recognize our divine nature, and access it. All we have to do is decide that this is what we want to do. And I know that I incarnated into this world to do that, and have written 41 books now on the Secret Garden. Now, 2 years later, my stepfather, who was an alcoholic, severe, bad, brutal, very, very violent. We would ride our bikes around waiting for him to leave, so that coming home was Not a pleasant thing to do because he was always looking like drunks do, to pick fights for nothing. But he was a Catholic, and there was a show on Tuesday nights. Now this is 1953, so I'm 13 years old, and there's a show on Tuesday nights. The most famous show in America at that time is the Milton Berle show, the Texaco Comedy Hour. I don't know, there's any other old farts in here like me that can remember that? Come on, who are you guys? You don't remember that. So anyway, so Milton Berle was, this big-time actor and comedian, and he had a show, and everybody watched it. We had a little black and white Admiral television set about this big. We'd all sit around and we'd watch it. But we weren't allowed to watch that. Now, this is a part of the same story I told you about Pete Agascu and Troy, and how he impacted her life, and then she and Anita, and the connection that you start to realize that everyone is all connected. We all come from the same source. Well, the same thing happened there with with Tuesday nights, and my stepfather Bill. He wouldn't let us watch that. He put on a show called Life is Worth Living by Bishop Fulton Sheen. That was opposite on that night. Now, this was a Catholic bishop who would get on and give a talk every Tuesday night, and I loved this show. It was called Life is Worth Living. I've written 40 books that I could have called Life is Worth Living. And I used to sit there and watch and take notes on Life is Worth Living. And it was just intriguing, because as I started writing, I can see clearly now, I went onto YouTube and I started looking at some of these shows, and I started remembering that, and I would take notes on that, I would talk about that. Like, my whole life has been, I start to realize it's all been orchestrated, it's all been taken care of, it's all been handled for us. And it's like all you have to do is find what it is inside of you that that excites you. What is it that excites you? Because if it makes you feel good, not your body, but if it makes your soul feel good, and it doesn't interfere with anybody else's right to feel good, then that's God talking to you. That's your alignment with your source of being. Muktananda, this great saint in India, when he would have people come into the ashram, and they would all walk in, and he would ask them, do you know the difference between God and good? And if they said no, he would just go like this and make a zero, make an O. He said, the only difference between God and good is nothing. There is no difference. God and good are the same. If it makes your soul feel good, and it doesn't interfere with anybody else's right to feel good, the reason that it feels good is because that's what you're here for. That's God. Good God. If you were to call my cell phone, you would hear this message. This is Wayne Dyer that you've reached, and I want to feel good. And if your message is designed to do anything other than that, you've reached the wrong number. I suggest you call Dr. Phil. It's been that for a long, long time. But what makes you feel good? Now, I have a daughter here. Where are you, Tracy? There she is over there. Who was working in a job that didn't make her feel good. She was in her late 30s. She's now, how old are you now? 46? She was born in 1967. My youngest is 24, so I have 8 between 24 and 46. But she was working for Best Buy. She had a very good job. She was an executive. She had good benefits. She had, an office. She had a secretary. She had all of those kind of things. But she just didn't feel good, because inside of her there's a designer. Inside of her there's somebody that wants to create. There's an artist in there. And she would talk to me on the phone. We talk almost every day. We have for, 46 years. And I would always say to her, you've got to take the risk. You've got to let go. But I got to give up my benefits. I'm not sure. I don't know. What would you like to do? Well, I would like to design. Design bags and handbags and so on. And I also want to make a difference. So she left. She finally left with a little help from her friends. And started her own company. It's called Urban Junket. And she decided that she heard that that there's a place on the Pacific Ocean and now in the Atlantic Ocean that's 1,000 miles wide, that's made out of plastic, that's just plastic, floating plastic in the ocean, just destroying our oceans. And we have these billions of these plastic water bottles, and she decided to do something about that, and she decided to start making handbags and using those materials on the inside particularly, and recycling these things instead of just throwing them away or putting them into the ocean, because they have like a 10,000-year half-life before they'll be degradable. And she created her own business, and she has her bags here. In fact, this is one of them, and I want to give Anita. Where are you, sweetheart? I want to give this to you. I don't know. This is one of Tracy's bags, Urban Junket. Isn't it beautiful? And not only that, but she's got these batteries in them that you put in the bottom, and you can plug it in and carry it for 10 days. It replugs. That's for you, sweetheart. That's from Tracy. She's got her bags here. They're up on the second floor, and she invented this whole thing where you carry this thing around. It's sewed into the bag, and you plug your phone in and go for 10 days. Anyway, check her out. That's my plug for my daughter. But it's more than a plug for my daughter. It's a plug for finding what it is inside of you that excites you, and knowing that you didn't come here to live somebody else's dharma. I've often said that your friends are God's way of apologizing for your relatives. Because your friends understand, and I've raised my children to believe that whatever it is that's inside of you that makes you feel good, and that isn't your body, makes your body feel good, like heroin or something like that or whatever, but what makes your soul feel good, and doesn't interfere with anybody else's right to do that, that's a tap on the shoulder. That's God talking to you. I had a session this morning for this congestion that I've lived with for the last 10 days from flying all over the place. And I had a session with my friend Kate McKinnon, who's a craniosacral therapist. And her excitement is in teaching people. And she literally, I wouldn't be up here on this stage if it wasn't for her today, truly. She spent 2 hours with me this morning just using just her hands. She's written a book called From My Hands and Heart. She's giving a workshop here, a breakout session. Is it tomorrow, Kate? Where are you, Kate? When is it? Tomorrow. Anybody interested in learning about craniosacral therapy? Come on up. From My Hands and Heart. You want to see this lady? There you go. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. It's a phenomenal experience. She can explain how between the cranium and the sacrum there's this energy, and she's got the most magical hands. It's a great session. I think you'll get a lot out of it. So this, see, a lot of you watching and listening here tonight are thinking, yeah, that's okay for you. It's like, my early training was watching every Tuesday night a show called Life is Worth Living. I was the only kid that liked it. Not only liked it, but took notes on it and loved the idea that we have within us the power to be able to make our life worthwhile, and couldn't wait every day to hear a story read by Mrs. Engel, by a book written in 1909 about a secret garden that all of us have within us. These are rungs on the ladder. And these rungs on the ladder, see, each of us can, Mark Twain once said that it's not what you don't know that gets you into trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so that gets you into trouble. And what you probably know for sure that just ain't so is that you have limitations, and that it's not possible for you to be able to manifest and attract things into your life, that it's not possible that all of these limitations that we place on ourselves, I call it ordinary consciousness. Like we've been raised to be ordinary. We've been raised to fit in. There's a book up here written by a woman in Australia. Her name's Bronnie Ware. It's called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. I really recommend you look at this book. This was a nurse who worked in hospice. And I know my mom was in hospice not too long ago. And they're just angels, these people. And she would interview the people that she worked with and kept very copious notes on it and wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Like, she would ask them, what is it that you regret as you look back at your life? And the top regret of the dying is, I wish I'd have had the courage to live my life the way I wanted to, rather than listening to other people telling me what I should or shouldn't do. That's the top regret that people have of the dying. The person you're listening to tonight won't have that regret. I have lived my life the way I know within I had to live it. But you may be thinking that it's not possible for you. So sometimes, here's a wonderful little poem that explains that what you think you know isn't always what you know. It's called The Cookie Thief. And I put this, it's written by Valerie Cox. I put it on my new PBS show. A woman was waiting at an airport one night with several long hours before her flight. She hunted for a book in the airport shops, bought a bag of cookies, and found a place to drop. She was engrossed in her book, but happened to see that the man sitting beside her, as bold as could be, grabbed a cookie or two from the bag in between, which she tried to ignore to avoid a scene. So she munched the cookies and watched the clock as the gutsy cookie thief diminished her stock. She was getting more irritated as the minutes ticked by, thinking, if I wasn't so nice, I'd blacken his eye. With each cookie she took, he took one too. And when only one was left, she wondered what he would do. And with a smile on his face and a nervous laugh, he took the last cookie and broke it in half. He offered her half as he ate the other. She snatched it from him and thought, oh, brother, this guy has some nerve, and he's also rude. Why, he didn't even show any gratitude. She had never known when she had been so galled, and sighed with relief when her flight was called. She gathered her belongings and headed to the gate, refusing to look back at the thieving ingrate. She boarded the plane and sank in her seat. Then she sought her book, which was almost complete. As she reached in her baggage, she gasped with surprise. There was her bag of cookies in front of her eyes. If mine are here, she moaned with despair, then the others were his, and he tried to share. Too late to apologize, she realized with grief that she was the rude one, the ingrate, the thief. Isn't that great? Valerie Cox. So sometimes you think that you absolutely know something. So, you know what's really intriguing? I sat down and I wrote this entire book, and I was just having such a wonderful time realizing that things were taking place in my life throughout my entire life, that there was divine guidance available to me. You know, the first 5 books that I wrote for the public, which were all bestsellers, the word God, or the word spiritual, or higher awareness, or higher consciousness, was in one book, one time, of those 5s. Only once, one reference in 5 best-selling books. In the book I wrote following that, called You'll See It When You Believe It, there were 39 references to God, Spirit, and higher consciousness. And then I wrote entire books called There's a Spiritual Solution to Your Sacred Self. What was going on here? I never sat down and decided that I was going to now start writing from a new perspective. that I was now going to write spiritual books and spiritual consciousness and become someone who talks about, on television with love written on his chest. And who made that decision? As you go through your life and you step back, that's what Rashad Field was talking about, is you step back and see things from a very different perspective than you've ever seen them before, you start to realize there's a cross between eternal time and chronological time, and when you are there and you can see both of them operating at the same time, that's when the absolute magic takes place. Since that time, now in 2005, I was called. It's just a calling. All of you have these callings. All of you have this. It doesn't take me more than 15 or 20 minutes, because I had a huge therapy practice back in New York, back in the 70s and 80s. And I could get to somebody's, what made them feel good, the way I described feeling good a little while ago. What it was, whether it was, it's usually something creative, but sometimes it just has to do with children, sometimes it has to do with animals. Whatever it is, there's something that's in there that's just, and if you listen to my radio show on Mondays on Hay House Radio, you'll hear me talking, always asking the people, what is it that makes you feel good? Not makes your body feel good. What is it that makes your soul? What does it make that makes your soul feel good? It's like Longfellow had this wonderful poem. He said, life is earnest, life is real, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not written of the soul. Your life is earnest, your life is real, but the grave isn't its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, that's what your body is. That's not the soul. Emily Dickinson, I just watched a film of hers called The Belle of Amherst. Oh, what a great film by Julie Harris, if you get a chance to read it. Julie Harris just died maybe 2 months ago, and the day that she died, I ordered the film and I watched it. It's a one-woman play of Emily Dickinson's life back in the 19th century. I watched it alone in my room in Maui, and I actually, when it was over, I stood up, like the whole audience did, and I just applauded. I gave her a 10-minute standing ovation. As long as the audience stood there and applauded, that's how good it was. If you're interested in Emily Dickinson, if you're interested in poetry. This quiet dust was gentlemen and ladies and lads and girls, was laughter and ability and sighing and frocks and curls. This passive place, a summer's nimble mansion where bloom and bees fulfilled their oriental circuit, then ceased, like these. 2 days after my mom passed away, she was cremated, and they gave us a urn full of dust. And I hold this urn up, and it's heavy, and it's like, surely that's not my mother. Surely you're not this body that you're in. That is real, which never changes. Your body's always changing. The minute that you think that you're this body, then you look at it and it's something different. Who you are is infinite. Who you are is divine. Who you are is not finite. It's infinite. The soul, the part of you that is who you really are, doesn't necessarily want to be happy. It doesn't want to own things. It doesn't want to make money. All it wants to do is expand. All it wants to do is grow. All it wants to do is just because it's not finite. This part of you that's listening to this talk, that's watching through these eyeballs, that what looks out from behind your eyeballs, that's God. That's where you came from. That's what you're going to return to. And all it wants to do is grow. I have 8 children. And before I had any children, I had 8 theories about how to raise children. Now I have 8 children. no theories. But one thing I know about raising children is that nobody likes being told what to do. That little child that screams out, "You're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my boss. You don't get to tell me what to do." That's not a brat. That's not a nasty little kid. That's the soul speaking and saying, don't put me in a box. Don't compartmentalize me. Don't tell me what I have to be. Don't do that to me. The theme song of the soul was sung by Roy Rogers and Bing Crosby. Oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Let me ride through the wide open spaces that I love. Don't fence me in. Don't put a fence around me. There's something inside of me that is infinite. It wants to expand. If it's finite, that means it stops someplace. The part of you that's listening to this right now, what is that? What is that invisibleness within you? Certainly you're not this body. It's just dust. Getting that and understanding that. You know, not only did I write this entire book, 58 chapters, with each one having a section called I Can See Clearly Now, why I was being divinely guided to do this. I was driving down the Long Island Expressway in 1976, and I was living out in Huntington and teaching at St. John's University. I was a professor there, and I was about to be granted tenure, which scared the hell out of me because it means like you're going to be here the rest of your life. You know, you're not going to go anywhere else now that you got a job for life. That was something that inside I just couldn't handle. And I had just written this book, Your Erroneous Zones, and something just came over me. Honestly, it just came over me. And I pulled off on the Long Island Express. I just sat there. I was like, trying to catch my breath. And I realized, oh my God, if I go in there and get tenure, I'm going to be stuck here. This is where I'm going to be. I've already done this. I've been doing it for 6 years. I got off back onto the Long Island Expressway, which is L-I-E, lie. And I didn't want to live that lie. And I went into the dean's office, Sarah Fassenmeyer, and I said, Dr. Fassenmeyer, I'm sorry. I said, but I don't want tenure. I'm resigning. This is my last semester. I'm going to take Your Erroneous Zones out across the country and talk about it myself. And it was a moment. It was like, I call them quantum moments, divine guidance. See, these are rungs on the ladder. The rungs on the ladder are things like willingness and so on. And so many of those things have taken place in my life. And they're taking place in your lives all the time. If I were to sit down and interview any of you and just ask you to pull out of, what is it that made you feel good and what did you do about it? Were you meant to be a great artist and didn't pick up the brush? Were you meant to be a great writer and didn't sit down and do it? Are you fulfilling somebody else's idea of what your life ought to be? Living somebody else's dharma that they've imposed upon you? There's a whole world full of people doing just that. And you're not listening to one of them because I can remember doing those kind of taking those. It's like what are you willing to do? How determined are you to make it happen? How much fear do you have inside of you? Because fear is a killer. Fear will give you cancer. It will. Just ask Anita. I mean, and just the word itself, there's so much of it. There's more people making a living off of cancer than have it. I mean, it's just like, it's endemic in our culture because fear isn't just, oh, I'm afraid to die. Fear is like these little tiny things that we do to ourselves all day long. Like, why do you drive the speed limit? Do you drive the speed limit because you're afraid you're going to get a ticket, or do you drive it because it's the safe thing to do and because you love the people on there and you want to be safe? I mean, fear is like all over the place. Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of disappointing somebody? Is this not going to look good on me? Am I too fat? It's like fear. And it's like these tiny little things and endless numbers of these, and they begin to coagulate, and then they become bigger and bigger, and they make us like they make us automatons. They don't allow us to fulfill our destiny. And you won't get to a place where you can start to see really clearly now that being fearless is a very important part of it. Not only, ladies and gentlemen, did I write this other book and have it and do a public television special on it, and spent 5 months, morning, noon, and night, and my kids will tell you they couldn't get me away from it. It was just such a calling. It was like I had to do it. Because, this thing that I wrote out this morning, if there is intelligence behind life, and there's every reason to believe that there is, and must be, then all of that intelligence is innate in every creation of that intelligence. How could it not be? If you came from that, it must be within you. And all you've done is taken on an ego, which means you've edged God out, ego, and taken on this ego, which is a false idea that who you are is what you do and what you accomplish and what other people think about you, and your separation from it if you let go of that ego. Not only did I write that book, which isn't even published yet. It's published in Australia, because I was down there and we brought it out a little early in a paperback down there, but it'll be out in a few months. I'm already writing another book. It's so weird, this calling. What I'm saying is you've got to listen and be fearless. And not listen to anybody else's voices. You've got to listen to that still, quiet, passive voice within you that says, this is what makes you feel good. This is what's right. You've got to take the chance, and now it's like, how I did the Tao Te Ching, and took this ancient book that was written 2,500 years ago, and lived it for a full year, and wrote an essay about each one of the verses of that, each one of the 81 verses in the Tao Te Ching, and did a public television special about it, and brought the Tao Te Ching, some call it the wisest book ever written, brought it to millions and millions of people all over this country and all over the world, because of a calling. It's just like, I could go through I write about it, and I can see clearly now. Now, here I am. There was another book written at the same time as the book that Gandhi based his entire life upon. It's called the Bhagavad Gita. It means Song of the Lord. It's 18 chapters, 18 verses. And I'm called, I've read the Gita 3 times in the last 2 months, cover to cover, 3 different versions of it. And just before I left to come on this trip, I went to New York and then flew here, I had 4 chores to do in my car. I wanted to stop at the grocery store, get some gift cards for my kids. I wanted to stop at the bank, get some money for my kids, because they were coming, and I was going to see them. That's part of what you do when you've got 8 kids and you have money. I wanted to stop at the vitamin store. I knew I had to stop and get certain supplements and so on to take when I'm traveling. And then I stopped at another, and I wanted to get some pokey, which is like a delicacy on Maui that's raw fish. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, they make it at this particular place. So those were my 4 stops, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I get in the car now to go back, to start packing, and my car is going the wrong direction. Honest. And I end up at Barnes & Noble. And I don't even, something is directing my life. This is what Arthur Miller meant when he said, I don't know, but I probably am. I'm telling you, this is going on in your life too, but it's like, the Buddhist proverb says, when the student is ready, the teachers will appear. Teachers are always there. Your readiness isn't. Your readiness is your fearlessness. Your readiness is your determination. Your readiness is your willingness to do whatever it takes, even if it means, not getting the approval of those around you. It's like, and there I am in the Eastern Religions Department, standing there, saying, what the hell is going on? I mean, I just felt a force pulling me, and I'm reading various interpretations of the Bhagavad Gita. I've already read it 3 times, and I know that I'm going to, I already just canceled a European tour that I'm supposed to do next year. I just know I got a call. I just canceled a talk that I'm supposed to give in Toronto. I just talked, for March. I just can't go. This thing is calling me. It's like it's so overwhelming that and now here I am talking about it. And I'm reading different interpretations, and I think the Bhagavad Gita, it's a story about Krishna, God, speaking to Arjuna, who is ready to go into battle, and he's on his chariot, and he's lined up on the battlefield, and his charioteer begins talking to him, and his charioteer turns out to be Krishna, turns out to be God speaking and telling in 18 verses what are the most important things to do in life. But when you read it, it's all filled with this sort of Hindi kind of approach and all of the different gods and so on at that time, which to people in this century here and this part of the world, it's too far away. So I'm just reading the verses and thinking, this has a lot of meaning, and I'm going to just live it. And I'm going to just talk about it, not as a scholar of the Bhagavad Gita. God knows I'm just me, just writing about it. But, I just can't wait to get in it. It's so exciting and I know it's just calling me. What I'm saying to you is that this has been the story of my life. From the time that I was a little orphan boy, one of the most significant moments in my life was in 1948 when I was standing at the St. Clair River. I was 8 years old, my brother was 9. We were living in a foster home, but my mother had got us for the weekend to go up to this cottage up in Canada where she was with the man she was to marry. And it was June, and we dove in. Both of us were going to dive out to the sandbar, which was about 50 yards away. And my brother Dave always wanted to prove that he could swim better than me and be big, but because he couldn't, but he wanted to prove that he could. He was smaller and sicker, and so that was like his lifetime. He wrote about a whole book about this. And my brother Dave came within a fraction of a second of drowning. He swam out there, and during the winter, the sandbar had been washed away, and now it was over his head, and his hand was gone up like this, and he had gone down, and he had gone a second time, and I ran into the customs office, and I screamed as loud as I possibly could, and had them they got a little boat out there, and they ran out, and I pointed to and we just saw his fingertip go up for the last time, and he was going down, he was drowning, and they managed to reach down and grab him and save him. Okay. And I wrote about this because this was like a very significant moment in my life, because after that, my brother David could not ever go in the water again. In fact, whenever it would rain, even every raindrop that would hit him would cause a hive to grow on his body. It was very difficult for him to ever be outdoors even, or go near the water. He'd stayed out of the water. Fast forward 28 years later, it's 1976. I've written a book called Your Erroneous Owns. I'm out in Kansas City doing a tour for the book, and he's stationed at Fort Riley, Kansas, in the Army. Back from Vietnam, won the Bronze Star for bravery in battle, the fourth highest honor for bravery. Lives now with Parkinson's disease because of his 2 tours in Vietnam. A hero to me. And I go to see him in Kansas. Haven't seen him in 10 years. But he's in the Army, traveling all over the place. And I'm there with my daughter Tracy, and she was 9 years old. And I go over to see Dave, and there's a swimming pool there. And I said to Dave, come on, let's go for a swim. He said, no. He says, I can't swim. I've never swam since that day in Sambra when you saved my life. I said, well, those days are over. I said, now you can swim. And he said, no. He said, I can't get water on me. That's not possible. It's not possible to do that. He said, I just break out in hives the minute that he said, even thinking about it, I'll break out in hives. I said, well, we're going to talk differently to ourselves today. And I did a whole session with him, took him into the swimming pool, and got him distracted from it. Tracy was there splashing and so on. We came out, and he looked, and he said, oh, my God. He said, that's the first time I've ever been able to be in water without having hives break out all over my body. And I thought, there's something within us that has the capacity to heal anything. And that's just one of those kinds of things that we carry around with us, these beliefs that I'm allergic to that, or I can't do that, or this has to happen, or I'm living in fear. And he sent that fear out. I've never told this story publicly. This is the very first time I've ever told that story. And it really touched me in a profound way, deeply. I learned throughout my early years as a teenager that you can go within and you can heal yourself of certain kinds of diseases. I taught my children that very same thing. My daughter Sage is coming out with a children's book called Goodbye Bumps, because she was told that she talked herself out of having flatworts on her face, because I told her, here's your choices. You can have them burned off, you can take a medicine that's going to leave your face scarred. She was 6 years old. Or you can talk to them. And if you talk to them, you can make them go away. And when you're 6, that's why I write children's books. Because I want children to learn that they have something very powerful within them. In 3 days, she talked herself out of something that had been spreading across her face, and that the doctors had all said, was going to leave her with marks on her face. She has perfect skin today. And she did it in 3 days by using this power that's within us. I call it the I am wishes fulfilled meditation. Practice this. I am. I am is what? It's the name of God. When Moses was asked, when Moses asked the question of the burning bush on the Sinai, who is it that's telling me to go free my people? The only place where God identifies himself, he says, my name is I am that I am, and that shall be my name for all future generations. That's right out of the book of Exodus 3:18. I am. Let the weak man say in the book of Joel, I am strong. I've been saying it all day. I've been so congested with whatever it is, and with this neck thing and so on, and all day I've been over at the hotel just practicing, I am strong, I am well, I am capable, I am going to do this, I'm going to get through this tonight, I can do anything, I am. I put out a meditation based upon the sounds that were from the letters in the original Hebrew. I am that I am, that sound that you hear in here. And I recommend you just take a piece of paper and write at the top of it the words, that. Just T-H-A-T, that. And underneath that, put anything that you would like to create for yourself, anything you would like to manifest for yourself, just write it down. Whatever you'd like to attract, what person you'd like to be, what relationship you'd like to have, what job you'd like to have, whatever it might be, just under that, and then play this, and use as your mantra, I am that. I am is the name of God. Every time you say the name I am, you are saying the name of God. So if you say I am weak, see, when Moses asked God his name, God didn't say, my name is, I hope things work out for you in the future. He said, I am that. I am, meaning I am everything. There is no place that I am not. That's the message of the Bhagavad Gita. I am everywhere. There is no place that I am not. I am in everything. And if I am in everything, then I must be in you. And if I am in you, then I must also be in everything that's missing from your life. I must be in that too, because there is no place that I am not. It's your excitement. What is it that excites you? You know what excites me right now? The biggest thing that excites me right now, other than the Bhagavad Gita and canceling some of these speaking things so that I don't have to travel, so I can get in there and live it and practice it and write this book because it's just calling me so strongly. I was up in Canada not too long ago, and I saw two people who brought us to Halifax. My daughter Sky and I were having dinner with them, and I looked at them, I said, you guys look fantastic. I haven't seen you in 2 years, but you look younger, your skin looks great, you've lost your pot belly, to the fellow that was there, Paul and I said, what have you done? They said, well, there's a book out there called Wheat Free, Worry Free, which I have here with me tonight, and another one called Wheat Belly, which I read. He said, we brought that person up there named Bill Davis, and he did a seminar, and we just decided to be gluten-free. And as a result of being gluten-free, we've changed our entire lives, because gluten, in wheat particularly, you got to read this. I'm telling you, I don't know if you looked at me, but I'm very different looking than I was even 6 months ago, because I have been completely gluten-free. Now, we've got genetically modified food that we are contaminating our food. In the year 1970, 1 out of every 10,000 births in America was autistic child. Now it's 1 out of 100. Yeah, 1 out of 10,000 to 1 out of 100 in one generation. Our obesity rate has climbed from maybe 5-6% to 30%. Because the crap that we are eating, the food industry, and they can't even get it so that, I mean, even in your own state, you couldn't even get just a simple little resolution passed to just have what's going into your food labeled. You guys raised $5 million to do that. $50 million was raised by the food industry, convincing you that this is some kind of conspiracy, that there's something wrong. Why don't we have a right to know? Food has been so genetically modified that half of the bees have disappeared from our planet because they go to pollinate something and they don't know what the hell that is. Because always the nature of life has been this generation produces the next generation. You came from the generation of your parents, who came from their parents, who came from their parents. That's how the trees got here. That's how the vegetables got here. That's how the animals get here. They don't get to have the seed owned by Monsanto, and then if you want to have another child, you got to go to them, and they have a patent on your seed. That's what we've done to our food supply. Truly. My mother, when she was 96 years old, looked like she was pregnant, and she had a belly out to here, and my mother was always so proper, and she would never go out even with curlers in her hair and so on. She said, Wayne, I watch what I eat, I exercise, and my belly is getting bigger and bigger, and I can't stop it. And I said, what do you eat? Well, every morning I have my wheat germ, and every day I have my whole wheat bread sandwich. And that's not the same, that's not the wheat that you ate when you were little boys and girls and eating Wheaties. It's all different. The next generation of food is owned by companies that patent the foods, and so it grows in the ground, and the next generation doesn't come from the food, it comes from you got to go buy it. And that food has been genetically modified so that it has pesticides built into it. And you share 7 identical genes with wheat. Now you're eating 80% of your food contains genetically modified organisms that have pesticides that are literally put into the food, and you're eating that stuff. And we don't have a 30% increase in obesity because we've become a nation of gluttons and we're not exercising. The food has been modified so that it turns something off in the brain so that you'll eat more of it and it doesn't turn it off. Just try it. Go gluten-free for a month and notice the difference in how you feel. It went away from me. This is gone. This is flat as it can be. And I used to always have this bloating. I mean, bloating was always the issue no matter what. It was bloating. And I'm an exerciser and all of that. I haven't had a moment of bloating. My skin has changed. I've got my kids doing it. I mean, well, anyway. This is a rant. I mean, I could go on and on with this. And it isn't just 99% of the corn in our country has been genetically modified. The bees don't know what the hell that is to do with the stuff that's in there. And the FDA approves it. And this is just wheat. So read Wheat Free, Worry Free, and read Wheat Belly, and notice and see how powerful you are in changing that. Anyway, I'll get off of that. That's my excitement. By the way, I called the author of Wheat Belly. His name's Bill Davis. He's a cardiologist in Milwaukee, and I've agreed at no cost, no profit to me or anything, to do a public television special to bring what I just have told you in the last 5 minutes to the world. Yeah. Right. So, here's the ladder that was placed before you. Here's the time that I've been speaking about, eternal time. Your whole life has been taken care of for you, just like your body has been taken care of for you. Everything, your height, your color of your skin, your hair, when it falls out, when it turns gray, all of it, it's all handled. You just watch it. You're just the observer to all of that. It's true of everything in your life. It's all taken there for you, except that you took on this ego. And this ego of yours is your false self. And this false self of yours tells you that who you are is not this divine being who is a piece of God, who is capable of declaring and creating anything they want for themselves. That's not who you are. Who you are is what other people think of you. Who you are is what you accumulate. Who you are is what you achieve. And the fact is that who you are is none of those things. Who you are is an infinite. You're a soul. Dust thou art, to dust returneth, was not written of the soul. The top of this ladder is what I want to speak about now. The top of the ladder is what's on my shirt. It's what I speak in from now on. Love, period. But a different kind of love. A kind of love that is so profound, it's called divine love. And I'm going to speak about it, but I want to just tell you, just last year on a Mediterranean cruise, I was speaking in these various spiritual places that we went to, and one of them was in Ephesus in Turkey, and I was going to give a talk outside of the home where the mother of Jesus lived the last 42 years of her life. When Jesus was crucified, he said to John, "Please take care of my mother." And she was to live, and she lived. They pretty much historically know that this is the home where the mother of Jesus, Mary, lived and I was to give a talk on the 805th birthday of Rumi, September the 30th, 2012. And I was so psyched about doing this because it's like I wanted to talk about divine love, and Rumi to me is like one of the great inspirations in my life. His poetry it always touches me, you know. Lovers do not finally find each other. They are in each other all along. He speaks of love in such a profound way. Sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. Rumi and Hafiz, two of these Middle Eastern poets who just have touched my life in such a big way. I'll share one of the poems at the end. And my daughter Serena was there with me. Now there's a gentleman here. His name is Alex Woodard. And Alex has written a book called For the Sender. And it's based upon what he has done. And he's speaking when, Alex? Tomorrow at 4:30. Don't miss it, okay? It's a standing ovation. It's just trust me on this one, okay? The book's called For the Sender, and I found it was a self-published book. It's called, and it says here by Dr. Wayne Dyer, "This is a beautifully written book with a powerful message. I read it in one sitting and absolutely loved it." And what he has done, he has taken letters that people have written and written songs about them. And it's one of the best written books for an unpublished author that I'd ever seen. I was so touched by it that I asked him to come on my public television special. He's a musician, and he wrote a song for me that was based upon a letter that my daughter Serena wrote to me. And just a preview, because this will be on the PBS special. You'll see it. But this is the letter that she wrote after I gave this talk in Ephesus, which is one of the highlights of my life. Being at that place, at the residence of the Blessed Mother. I've been to Lourdes. The hat I'm wearing today was purchased in Lourdes. Been to Medjugorje, where the Blessed Mother has appeared. This is very meaningful to me. She said, "Dear Dad, today I sat behind you in Ephesus, Turkey, while you gave a lecture to a few hundred people who had traveled from all over the world to hear you speak. I was overcome with emotion as I saw you standing there fulfilling your Dharma while touching the lives of so many. I know you as my father, but you have always been a teacher to me as well. You have taught me that the solutions to all of life's problems are inside of me, and that I only had to go within, be silent and present, and know that all is well. You never told me how to live or what to think or what to believe in. Instead, you showed me how to make each step a prayer and each word a word of love. You taught me about Rumi and St. Francis, and Hafiz, and Jesus, and Buddha, and Krishna, and Muhammad, and St. Germain, and Neville, and so many others. You taught me to believe in magic and miracles, and you showed me how to be in awe of the awesome world we live in. Since the time I was brought into this world, I knew that I was safe to be exactly as I was, and that whoever I was a perfect creation of God. You told me that I was God, and that it was God that looked out from behind my eyes. I learned from you that I was the master of my own fate, the creator of my own destiny. Of all the lessons I have learned, the thing that hit me the hardest is when you said that I am God. Could I really be a spark of God, a perfect creation put here on earth with a purpose? You say this all the time, but I've always struggled with it, especially since school and society were telling me otherwise. I doubted myself, I felt inferior, and worried that I needed to apologize to something for even contemplating this idea. I have felt unworthy, undeserved, and unsure. Although you gave me great tools, I still had to figure out how to use them on my own. Now I understand that God is love, God is beauty, and God is truth. You told me I came from an infinite space of perfection, and that I will return to it one day too. Slowly I'm beginning to understand. People love you so much, and yet to me you've always been Dad. You drove me to school each morning, you taught me how to swim, how to ride a bike, you read me stories, and you came to all my plays. As I have grown, you have encouraged me to follow my Dharma and to go after whatever it is that excites me. You believe in me, Dad, and I love you so much for that. What do you say to someone that gave you life and then showed you how to live it? You say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, Serena. Isn't that a beautiful letter? So I showed that letter to Alex, and Alex said, I'm going to write a song about that letter. And that's what he does. That's what For the Sender is. It has a CD in it with his music as well. He's an accomplished musician. And my daughter Sky, who is here tonight with me as well, who's now 32 years old and married, is going to sing this song with Alex accompanying her. So if you'd come up, Sky, and entertain these people. You're going to sing it without mic? Oh, wow. Is this called acoustic?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that note? What's on there? Oh, read it. Let me see. What does it say?
It says, I am fearless.
So you sing fearlessly, honey. This is my baby. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, man.
Alex and Sky. Woo. As my kids say, come on, Dad, get your shit together. Okay. This is Sky's CD, You Inspire Me, and she also has a new CD coming out, as Alex does, with that on it. We just did it on the PBS show, so it's so beautiful. It touches me every time. It does. The top rung of the ladder. As we climb this ladder that has determination and fearlessness and willingness, when these opportunities show up, when you let eternal time collide with chronological Chronos time, when you realize that, yes, you are making choices within a context of everything is already taken care of. It's all perfect. And so you can just make these course corrections so that when the opportunities show up, it's talked a lot about in the Tao. This is a little book. This is the Tao Te Ching. This is it. It's my version of it. I combined a whole bunch of people and gave them all credit. But this is a book that some call the wisest book ever written. Very, very short, 81 verses. I recommend you just carry it with you wherever you go. Put it in your purse, the new purse you're going to get from my daughter, Tracy. Put it in your glove compartment. I keep it in my glove compartment all the time. I open it virtually every day. Something of such great and powerful wisdom is in here about what life really is, and that God is really not some being walking around in space with a long white beard as a cosmic bellboy, giving you what you want when things don't go your way. But God is really in everything and everywhere. He's in all of nature, and eliminating the violence in our hearts. I recommend that you read this. It's really very, very powerful. And speaking of that, another book that is here that is so wonderful. Oh my goodness. I also wrote the foreword to this, and as well as Anita's book, and so many others, people that I have loved and cared for. Last year on December the 14th, you all remember what happened in Sandy Hook at Newtown. Well, a woman named Scarlett Lewis I have become very friendly with. She's been on my shows. She was on my PBS show. She lost her little boy. His name was Jesse. He was responsible for saving 6 children's lives. When Adam Lanza's gun jammed, he escorted and told 6 children to run at that moment. He knew it was coming. He wrote these words out, nurturing, healing, love. You would think that a woman who'd experienced what she had experienced and the horror of that would be filled with rage and hatred. But what she understands is something that we need to understand more in the world, that you do not solve the problem of darkness by throwing more darkness at it. All you do is expand the darkness. Somehow they've tried to convince us that the answer to more gun violence is to get more guns out there. I can't get the logic of that myself, but that's a different, I guess, issue for other people. For me, it just it makes no sense at all. The Dalai Lama said that if we could take every child at the age of 6 and teach them to meditate on compassion for 1 hour a week, we could end all violence on our planet in 1 generation. If we would just stop, the reason we have violence in the world is because we have violence in our hearts. And if we didn't have violence in our hearts, but we had just love, period, in our hearts, then there would be nobody to fight these wars. There'd be nobody to, Jackson Browne has a song called Lives in the Balance. I want to know who the men in the shadows are, who are never there to fight and to die. They're always telling others that they have to do that. We've got to get the violence out of our hearts. The Tao Te Ching teaches that. This book that I wrote the foreword to, and I've become a very good friend of Scarlett's, I'm doing an entire 2-day seminar in Maui in January on divine love with myself and Anita Moorjani and Scarlett Lewis and Immaculée Ilibagiza, 3 women who I consider to be saints walking on our planet today. I really mean that, Anita and Immaculée and Scarlett, if you're watching. Women who have shown such incredible power, the power of love. And when you read this book, you'll read it in one sitting, and you'll be touched by the profound message of divine love. She has turned this whole incident not into a place of rage, but created a whole foundation called the Jesse Lewis Choose Love Foundation. She's one of my dearest friends and someone I love very much, and I really encourage you to read this. She was just on the Today Show. Some of you may have seen it last week. The story of Jesse, well, it's just thrilling. When I read it and I had my children read it, I had friends of mine read it, as soon as they would read it, they would just realize that they had read something very sacred. And those words were written by a 6-year-old, scratched on a chalkboard, nurturing, healing, love, just like that on the back. words that he had never heard spoken before, just 2 days before he died, with a picture of someone evil and a picture of someone, an angel, next to him. He knew it was coming because this was his dharma. He came here for this amount of time. And it's an infinite universe, so we all have an infinite number of times to do this. There's no beginning to it. There's no end to it. There's something within each and every one of us that is deathless, something that we're all connected to. I'm just talking about some of these products that are up in front. There's another book here by Pam Grout. It's a New York Times bestseller now, called E2. And it's 9 do-it-yourself energy experiments that prove your thoughts create your reality. You become what you think about. I saw this book, self-published book. I told Reed at Hay House, I'd really like you to publish this. I did the first 2 experiments, and within a half an hour of doing them, what I put into my mind manifested. I don't know how many of you have read this or not, but have you read it? Yeah. Who would like to read it? Would you, someone? Here, come on up. Whichever one of you wants to get here first, it's yours. You got it. It's called E Squared. It's just a paperback, but it's really fascinating. I've got my kids doing it, and a friend of mine's little daughter is doing it for a science project at school, planting seeds in an egg carton and talking to the seeds and talking differently to one set of seeds and ignoring the others, and watching the difference between how they grow by just sending love to these plants. They grow like twice the height of the ones that are ignored over here. In the same amount of sunlight, the same amount of water. The difference is love. So there's something out there called divine love. And divine love was taught to me by a man that I've never met, but I did a past life regression just before I published Wishes Fulfilled with Mira Kelly, who I see sitting right over there. Mira, I think you're doing a workshop, is it, tomorrow in Santa Monica? So you can look it up on Mira Kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y. She did a past life regression on me. Now, I'd never done one before. Wasn't a big fan of it, although Brian Weiss is a dear friend. I read Many Lives, Many Masters, and was really touched by it, but this experience of realizing that eternal time doesn't have any beginning and end to it, so that lives can overlap. Peter Dunoff's life overlaps mine by 4 years. He died in 1944. I was born in 1940. In this past life regression, because of the limit of time, I want to be careful. I became this. Everything is so vivid to me. Even now, it's like 3 years later, and what I was wearing, the whole thing was just such a powerful experience. And I became this old man with a white beard, and I was trying to talk to my son, who was so filled with rage because of something that had happened to his mother, my wife, and he just wanted to go out and kill, and it was all about killing and so on. And I was trying to talk him into coming into the light, and there was this enormous light coming through. We were in like a cave, and the light was just coming through, and he was outside the light. And this light was like pure love, just pure divine love. I even remember sitting up straight and saying, "The light is so bright," and I had my eyes closed, and there was no lights on in the room, but the light was just, and he wouldn't come in. He said, "No, I'm going to kill the bastard who killed my mother. I'm going to," and it was like, so I then saw a picture. Mira's mother, who's from Bulgaria, as is Mira, sent me a picture book of this man who had written all of these books, 250 books he's written on divine love in Bulgaria. Now, Peter Dunoff is the one person who was responsible for no Jews being killed during the Nazi occupation in Bulgaria. There were like 37,000, 42,000, something, between 30 and 40,000 of the people in Bulgaria, the Jewish people, who had been put onto trains and were going to be sent to to Auschwitz and Dachau and places like this. And the only way that the trains could be stopped was if the Tsar of Bulgaria, who was in hiding because the Nazis were looking for him, this was 1943, and they went to Peter Dunov, this spiritual master. I've read everything about him, many of his books that have been translated into English. All of them are about divine love. And he was asked, the only way to save these 40,000 Jews from being sent off into the trains with the Nazis is if we can find the Tsar and he can put a stop to it. And he just closed his eyes, and he had this God consciousness, God realization, which all of us have. But most of us have come to believe that we're ordinary. We can't do these kind of things. He knew better. He knew about a different kind of love. And he said, the Tsar is located at this location, in this city, on this street, in this home. And it all came to him from here. And they went and they found the Tsar, and the Tsar refused to give the order to have those trains go. And no Jews from Bulgaria were executed during the Nazi occupation in Bulgaria because of Peter Dunov. Albert Einstein once said, the whole world bows before me, and I bow before Peter Dunov. And when I saw the picture of Peter Dunov that Mira's mother sent to me, I almost fainted, because it was exactly the being that I saw myself as in the past life regression, trying to talk my son into coming into the light, come into this light. And Peter Dunov said there are different kinds of love. He said there are basically three. There's human love. And human love is a love that changes, and it's a love that varies. So this is a love that most of us know. It's, I love you, but not as much because it was Valentine's Day and my birthday, and now you forgot to get me this, and you came home late, and you did that, and so it changes, and it varies. I love you a lot today, not so much as yesterday. It's up and down, it changes. I love you, I hate you, I love you, I hate you. You're going. This is what we call human love, the love that we have become accustomed to. All right, and it's a love that I aspire to get past. He said the second kind of love is a love that's called spiritual love. And this is a love that never changes, but it does vary. This is the only way you can describe, the best way to describe this love is that the love you have for your child. Even Adam Lanza's mother loved her son. No matter what he did or how terrible it was, she would still, even though he killed her, she still would love him. It's the love that you have for this child of yours. I mean, I have 8 children, and it doesn't change. It's always there. I've got some that have done very disappointing things. There are some that have done wonderful things, and on, but it just doesn't change. It doesn't matter what they've done. You all know that, all of you who are parents, or even who had parents, so that pretty much includes everyone here. But it does vary. Not so much as yesterday. It's like, you're not following the rules, and you're disobeying this, and you're not dressing whatever it might be. And so it's a love that it varies. It's up and it's down. It's up and it's down, but it never changes. And then there's another kind of love. It's the love I aspire to live. It's a love called divine love. Divine love is a love that never changes. Divine love is a love that never varies. It's all there is. In the unveiled mysteries, the attitude of one who wishes to work in conscious cooperation with the ascended host should not be, I wish I could go to them for instructions, that is, go to the angels or to God or whatever and get instructions. But rather, I will so purify, discipline, and perfect myself, become such an expression of divine love, myself, that the work that I do will automatically be drawn unto them. I will love so constantly, so infinitely, so divinely, that the very intensity of my own light will open the way for them to accept me. That is, you have to love the way God loves us. The great poet Hafiz said, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Just think what a love like that can do. It lights up the whole world. This is a different kind of love than human love and spiritual love. This is a love that is what we are. It's a love that you will experience when you leave this body. It's a love that in the Bhagavad Gita they talk about combining the opposites, transcending the dichotomies, bringing oneness. Oneness is a concept that we cannot know as human beings other than when we are in silence, because God's one and only voice is silence. It's only through meditation that you can even approach this, because everything in the physical plane has a duality, has an opposite. If I said to you, what's the opposite of joy? You would say sadness, sorrow, depression, whatever. If I ask you to imagine joy that has no opposite, that's all there is, you would know what Anita experienced when she was in her near-death experience and what brought her back to tell us about the importance of just being ourselves and getting fear out of our life. If I ask you what's the opposite of love, you might say fear, you might say hate, you might say rage, whatever. But if I ask you, imagine a love that has no opposite, you will know that when you take your last breath. When I read the poem from Hafiz at the end, you will know that. I aspire to it now. It's like, how do you get to a place where there is no opposites? Let's just say you lived on the sun, right smack on the sun, okay? Would you ever have a concept of darkness? Because the opposite of light is what? Dark, right? But on the sun, would you ever have an experience of darkness? Why? Because when you are with the source of all light, there is no opposite. There's only light. When you are with the source of love, which is God, or divine mind, or the Tao. In the Tao, they say, the opening line of the Tao says, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. So the minute you name it, you've lost it, because now you have the name and the thing, that's two-ness. It's like in the Gospel of St. Thomas, found at Nag Hammadi in 1945, at the time written from the Dead Sea Scrolls, written at the time of Jesus being here on earth, which is not like the New Testament, which was written between 80 and 120 years after the death of Jesus. All of the words that are quoted directly were words that were remembered by second and third generations. But in the Gospel of St. Thomas and Nag Hammadi, it says only when you make the two one can you enter the kingdom. When you make the two one, that's what the Bhagavad Gita is trying to teach us, to get to a place of divine love. Now, the way that you get there is by first catching yourself, catching the thoughts that you have. So your thoughts of, in the I Am discourses, I'm going to put my glasses on for this one. This is one of the most important passages in the I Am discourses. It says, the student should constantly look within his human self and see what habits or creations are there that need to be plucked out and disposed of. For only by refusing to any longer allow habits of judging, condemning, and criticizing to exist can he be free. The true activity of the student is only to perfect his own world, and he cannot do it as long as he sees imperfection in the world of another of God's children. In other words, it is only through eliminating judgment, criticism, and condemnation that you will be able to approach knowing God realization, God consciousness, divine love. Every judgment that you have. Now, the same day that Serena wrote me that beautiful letter that Alex wrote that song and that Sky just sang for me, called The Gift. We stopped, there were 10 buses, and we stopped at Ephesus, which is an ancient city that is just being excavated. Only 15% of it has been excavated. It's an amazing place to be, to walk through the streets of the city that Jesus walked in, at that time, 2,000 years ago. We stopped, and we stopped for a restroom break, and we went into the men's toilets over here. The women were all lined up over here, and the men just walked in, because the place is just one great big urinal. All right, like the whole back wall of this thing is just a metal thing, and it's just all men peeing all day long in there. Okay, so it's just a wonderfully fragrant place to walk into. So I walk in there and do my business and walk out, and there's a man, an older man, a Turkish man, who's there, standing there, and he's got a roll of toilet paper, and he's tearing sheets of toilet paper off and handing them to us to dry our hands. And the immediate thought that comes to me is, this guy expects me to give him a tip in this place, and it's like that stuff, that old judgmental stuff comes back, and I'm not going to do that, and that's why I don't even want to. Why do I have to deal with people who are looking for handouts and all of this stuff that just I grew up with and learned and had carried with me, just thoughts, and I walk out and I don't give them anything, and I get about halfway. I'm about to give a talk at the place where the mother of Jesus lived, on Rumi, the teacher of love. And my head is filled with these kinds of thoughts. So the way that you get to this divine love is, first you catch the thought. And you say, okay, I'm not going to, I just realized I just had a judgmental thought towards a man. I have no idea who he is, what he's doing in there. Whether he has 12 children that he's trying to feed, and there's no other way to work. Whatever is going on, So you change the thought. You start saying, okay, I'm not going to think those thoughts anymore. You catch yourself with that subatomic programming that you've had. And you try to wipe it out. But it's not enough to change the thought. You have to now begin to change the behavior, and say, okay, I'm not going to behave like that. The next time that comes up, I'm not going to do that. But that's still not the way to get the subconscious programming of judgment, condemnation, and criticism out of your consciousness. You have to go back and correct yourself and make amends on the spot, which is what I did. Before I gave that lecture, I walked back. I had a 20-euro note in my pocket, and I took it out of my pocket. And I went to that man who did not smell very good and whose clothes were dirty, and I put my arms around him. And I remembered what Mother Teresa said when I was in a room with her in 1989 in Phoenix. She said, every day I see Jesus Christ in all of his distressing disguises. And I remember her saying that. And I put 20-euro note in his hand, and it's all I had. It's about $30. And I put my arms around him and thanked him for the kindness of offering me something to dry my hands. And I went back and gave the talk. And I say to you, that's what I have been practicing if you want to get to divine love. The greatest love there is. A kind of love that exists within each and every one of us because it's what we came from. It's what we will return to. The ego is the part of us that believes that who we are is all that we accumulate, all that we have, all that we own, all that we're better than. Rabindranath Tagore, the great Indian poet who won the Nobel Prize for Literature and Poetry in 1926 for the collection of poetry called the Gitanjali. He said this about the ego. He said, I went out alone on my way to my tryst, but who is this me in the dark? I step aside to avoid his presence, but I escape him not. He makes the dust rise from the earth with his swagger. He adds his loud voice to every word I utter. He is my own little self, my Lord. He knows no shame. But I am ashamed to come to thy door in his company. That's the ego that needs to be right. You have the choice to be right or to be kind. You want to know divine love, you be kind, regardless. You get those judgmental thoughts out of you and practice what you're going to know the moment that you close your eyes. It's a poem that I love. It's called In a Treehouse by Hafiz. Light will someday split you open, even if your life is now a cage. This means when you die, light is going to split you open the minute that you let and return to divine love. For a divine seed, the crown of destiny is hidden and sown on an ancient fertile plain that you hold the title to. Even if your mind is now a spoiled mule, a life-giving radiance will come. The friend's gratuity will come. Oh, look again within yourself. For I know you were once the elegant host to all the marvels in creation. Think of the greatness of that little three sentences. Oh, look again within yourself. For I know you were once the elegant host to all the marvels in creation. That's what you once were. From a sacred crevice in your body, a bow raises each night and shoots your soul into God. Behold the beautiful drunk singing one from the lunar vantage point of love. He is conducting the affairs of the whole universe while throwing wild parties in a treehouse, on a limb, in your heart. I don't know about you, but that just gives me tinglies, goosebumps. That's the greatest love, and it's in each and every one of us. And I would like to invite my daughter, Sky, to come up here on the stage and take a microphone. And I would like to invite everybody in the room to stand up, if you will, please, and hold hands across the whole place. Let's just become one. Just all across the aisles, just like even upstairs, just all. And this song, Sky's going to sing a cappella, was originally sung by Whitney Houston. Someone who 3 days before she passed away, I said to Sky, I called her and said, Whitney needs to talk to me. I know I need to talk to her. I had such a vision. You remember, honey? And 3 days later, she died. But she had a voice. Well, you all know what a voice and what a soul she was. Lost in some ways, but offered us so many beautiful things. And the greatest love I'm speaking about is located in every single one of us. We all have it. Take it away, my dear.
I believe that children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone who fulfilled my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself, it is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of leads you to a lonely place, find your strength in love.
Whew.
Thank you.
Thank you, honey. The greatest love. Be seated. This love, this greatest love, is what this whole world has been lacking. We can find that within ourselves. The great Patanjali, the father of meditation, 2,300 years ago said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all of your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. And you find yourself in a new and a great and a wonderful world. And then he said, dormant forces, that is, forces that you thought were not available, accessible, dead, dormant forces, faculties and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. It's an amazing thing. All you have to do is be inspired in spirit and listen to that silent inner voice that wants to feel good. Rumi put it this way. He said, you who seek God apart, that which you seek, thou art. If you want to see the beloved's face, polish the mirror and gaze into that space. And finally, once again from Rumi, I tried to find him on the Christian cross, but he was not there. I went to the temple of the Hindus and to the old pagodas, but I could not find a trace of him anywhere. I searched on the mountains and in the valleys, but neither in the heights nor in the depths was I able to find him. I went to the Kaaba in Mecca, but he was not there either. I questioned the scholars and the philosophers, but he was beyond their understanding. I then looked into my own heart, and it was there where he dwelled, and I saw him, and he was nowhere else to be found. You are that greatest love. That's what you came from. That's what you will return to. In a tree house, in a limb, in your heart. Because in every moment of your life, honestly, you all have this choice. You can either be a host to God or a hostage to your ego.